I know you. You're that jaywalking punk anarchist.
Hello, this is the Radical Reviewer, and let's discuss the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Oh boy, this is a whole thing, and I am torn. Is shooting someone who grabs at a gun you are holding a justified use of self-defense? Yes, it probably is. Is showing up to a civil rights protest with a gun as a counter-protester probably bad, perhaps even some form of provocation? Yes. Do similar self-defense incidences play out way differently in our criminal so-called justice system when the shooter is a brown or black person? Yes. Yes, they do. All in all, I think it's bad when someone shoots civil rights protesters. The politics of this situation are bad. But the court can't, and shouldn't punish the politics of this situation. Instead, the court will address the abstract actions of the situation. Is it justified self-defense to shoot someone running at you or throwing stuff at you or trying to grab a gun from you? And I can think of several situations where these abstract actions could be the same, but the politics could be reversed. Maybe an angry racist white man tries to attack a black man and take a gun from him, and the black man shoots in self-defense. Maybe a sex worker is attacked by a client who tries to grab their gun and they shoot in self-defense, etc., etc. My two biggest reasons for wanting to find Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty are the following. 1. Guns are the great equalizer in regard to self-defense, and so their use in self-defense shouldn't be limited. And 2. If the state is racist, sexist, and classist, then I do not trust the way precedents of a guilty verdict would be enforced. But before we look into all that, let's first take a look at the 7 charges levied against Kyle Rittenhouse. And reminder, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a journalist or a reporter, I haven't even been watching the trial. I've only seen the footage of the shootings and clips of the trial that various other news outlets and articles have used. That said, let's get into it. Count 1, first-degree reckless homicide. This is a felony charge regarding the death of Joseph Rosenbaum, who threw a plastic bag at Rittenhouse and chased him and tried to grab his gun, and in response, Rittenhouse shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum. This charge is punishable by up to 60 years in prison. Again, if we ignore the politics of the situation and just look at this as a violent altercation between two people, if person A is throwing stuff at and chasing and trying to grab the gun of person B, and so person B shoots person A in self-defense, that is probably a justified act of self-defense. Count 2, first-degree recklessly endangering safety. This felony is in regards to McGinnis being in the line of fire when Rittenhouse shot Rosenbaum. This charge is punishable by 12.5 years in prison. This charge is the same as Count 3, first-degree recklessly endangering safety, but Count 3 is about Rittenhouse shooting and missing Anthony Huber, the guy with the skateboard, and thus endangering others in the line of fire. Again, this charge is punishable by 12.5 years in prison. Regarding counts 2 and 3, he's probably guilty, but it's tricky, because I wouldn't want to limit someone's ability to engage in justified self-defense. Like, what if person A tries to mug or sexually assault person B as they are walking to their car from a store, and so person B turns around and shoots at person A in self-defense, despite a store with people in it being behind them? Would we want the state to have the power to charge person B with first-degree reckless endangerment? I don't think so. Count 4, first-degree intentional homicide. This charge is in regards to Anthony Huber's death after he hit Rittenhouse with a skateboard and tried to grab his gun before Rittenhouse shot him. This charge means life in prison, or as a second-degree intentional homicide, it could mean up to 60 years in prison. Count 4 is similar to Count 1, and also similar to Count 5, attempted first-degree intentional homicide. This one is about Rittenhouse shooting Gage Grosskreutz in the arm after he came towards Rittenhouse with a pistol, firing one shot. This one carries a maximum punishment of 60 years, or second-degree attempted intentional homicide, which is 30 years. And yeah, regarding counts 1, 4, and 5, what do I think? Well, was Rittenhouse fulfilling the role of a counter-protester against a civil rights protest? Yes. Is that bad? Yes. Did he stupidly bring a gun to a civil rights protest and get himself into a situation alone and having altercations with protesters like a mega chud idiot? Absolutely. But I wouldn't want this case to be found guilty simply because I disagree with the politics of it. If we look at the actions in the abstract, I do believe that chasing, hitting, and especially trying to grab the gun of someone else means that they can shoot back in self-defense. Count 6. Possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. Wisconsin law prohibits minors from possessing firearms except when hunting or target practice and supervised by an adult. However, the subsection of this law describes that it is in regards to short-barreled rifles, which complicates matters. I thought he was guilty on this one. He was 17, he was not hunting or shooting targets, and from the look of the video footage, he was unsupervised. But apparently his gun was too long for this statute to apply, so he is not guilty of this one either. And finally, count 7. Failure to comply with an emergency order from state or local government. This is in regards to being out past the 8 p.m. curfew, which carries a fine of $200. I think he's obviously guilty of this one, but it was a curfew that lots of folks were breaking. Normally I'd say convict him on this one, but I can understand ignoring it for the purposes of the trial since everyone involved was breaking this ordinance. I don't know. But that's my stance regarding the 7 counts against Kyle Rittenhouse. As we saw, he was found not guilty on all 7 counts. But that's not really what I care about. I'm here to talk about the implications or potential implications of this trial. Again, those are 1. Guns are the great equalizer in regard to self-defense, and so their use in self-defense shouldn't be limited. And 2, if the state is racist, sexist, and classist, then I do not trust the way the precedents of a guilty verdict would be enforced. Let's start with number 1. Guns are the great equalizer in regards to self-defense, and so their use in self-defense shouldn't be limited. You see, we are not naturally equal in our ability to defend ourselves from assault. Maybe you are young and small, or maybe old and infirm. Maybe you're just smaller than the average person with not a lot of muscle mass. Maybe you have a disability or are on some kind of medication or medical treatment that makes self-defense, makes protecting yourself from an attacker, difficult. Well, guns are the great equalizer in protecting yourself from assault. You don't typically have to be bigger, stronger, more able-bodied, or well-trained than your aggressor to defend yourself if you have a gun. And so, because I believe in equality and self-defense, I do not want the state limiting our ability to engage in justified self-defense. Let's look at number 2. If the state is racist, sexist, and classist, then I do not trust the way the precedents of a guilty verdict would be enforced. Now, if you're watching my channel, you probably understand that our legal system is systemically racist. If for whatever reason you don't understand that, you can check out books like Are Prisons Obsolete?, or The End of Policing, or The New Jim Crow, all of which I covered on this channel. Or you could even just look at the frequency of stops, searches, trials, and convictions of people by race if you'd like to know more. But it's more than just our criminal justice system being racist. The whole political economic system is racist, sexist, and classist. I'm sure we all know the examples. You can scroll through the list of murders on the Wikipedia page, list of worker deaths in United States labor disputes, and look at all the times police, National Guardsmen, and other state actors murdered striking workers. You can look at political prisoners, political assassinations, and assassination attempts, such as Mumia Abu-Jamal, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, Geronimo Pratt, Leonard Peltier, Judy Berry, and so many others. You can look at gun restrictions designed to target the Black Panther Party or other attacks on leftist groups engaging in armed self-defense. The Espionage Act, the Sedition Act, the Palmer Raids, the Red Scare, COINTELPRO, Red Squads, the financing, facilitating, and arming of the KKK and fascist and other reactionary groups, bombing, burglary, arson, kidnapping, murder. It's a whole thing. But let's get back to the subject at paw. Now, despite living in a racist, sexist, classist system, are there reasons to want to find Rittenhouse guilty? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad it's not the 1890s anymore, with workers' strikes ending in shootouts between the unions and the National Guard. I'm glad that civil rights protests aren't the crackdown of police repression they once were. Well, maybe that's the same. But I'm glad that we're heading in a less violent era of history, and I want to promote politics heading in that direction. And if you look at books like Pacifism as Pathology, or How Nonviolence Protects the State, or In Defense of Looting, you'll see that rioting and looting and other forms of property destruction have always played a crucial, pivotal role in successful fights for justice. So I do absolutely believe in the safety and protection of protesters, even including rioters and looters. But I am hesitant on how much power I would want to give this racist, sexist, classist state in order to enforce that protection. So, yeah, a lot of mixed feelings on this one, but those are my thoughts on the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Please be safe, please continue to fight for justice, please join a leftist gun club and get yourself a concealed carry permit if you determine that that is a step that you need to do in regards to self-defense. Please be safe. Much love. Goodbye.